Hello everyone, it's Emma and welcome back to my channel. Today I am so excited to talk to you about everything I hate about zero waste. So I've seen many YouTubers make videos like this. Shell Bizzle made this video a few years ago. Levi Hildebrand just made this video about a month ago. Now I'm going to talk about it. And I think this is something very important for everyone to talk about within the movement. And that's because zero waste is just not feasible. It is seriously impossible for anyone to create zero waste, physical and invisible. Like, you can reduce your physical waste as much as possible, but you're still gonna have some invisible waste, especially in our age of social media, digitalness. Everyone has some sort of carbon footprint. Before we get too far into this video, if you're new here, welcome. I post new videos every Monday and Thursday Japan Standard Time, which is Sunday and Wednesday in the US. And if I talk a little bit too fast for you, you can change the speed of this video using the gear icon right down here. So I've only ever used the term zero waste, like other YouTubers would agree, for searchability, because no one's really out there searching practical sustainability, low waste, sustainable living. Like, everyone's searching zero waste. And I think that's mostly just because of all the traction behind it. It started with, I forget her name, her actual name, her handle for social media is Trash is for Tossers. She really started the whole movement behind creating zero physical waste, and thus the zero waste movement was born, really. And everyone kind of jumped behind it because maybe the hype, and it just kind of stuck. It's a lot easier to tell someone, oh, I'm part of the zero waste movement, instead of I'm part of the make as little impact as possible movement. It just rolls off the tongue a little better. So today we're going to kind of dive into some zero waste misconceptions and things about the movement that I hate, as well as some zero waste products that I actually hate and you really don't even need. So let's go ahead and start with the products, just because they're a little easier to talk about. First is a dish soap block, and I wrote this on this list when I was brainstorming this video idea about a month ago, and that was before I received my concentrated eco bars, and you can watch that full review video up here. But I've since then learned to appreciate dish soap blocks. And honestly, if I ever have the option to buy bulk soap, like soap without packaging, liquid soap, I'll do it. I love liquid soap. But for now, this is the most zero waste option available to me, is dish soap blocks. And it turns out I hated it because I was using it wrong. I was trying to use it with my wooden dish brush because that was the eco-friendly option I had at the time. And I was just like, this is so difficult to scrub the brush and actually get suds off. I hate dish soap blocks. But then I realized maybe I'm just doing it wrong. And I was. So I tried using a sponge or a rag instead, and it made it so much easier to use. And then of course, our first dish soap block, we didn't put it to waste. We got it from No Tox Life. Dan just grinded it up, mixed it with some water, and he made our own liquid soap. So that was pretty cool. Another low waste thing that I absolutely hate is reusable pads. I've tried 2 different brands now. I despise them. Before zero waste, I was always a pad user, so I thought I would just go that same route in the zero waste world. They're so bad. For me. Some other people might love them. I personally hate them. So instead, what I use now is period underwear, and you can check out that full review video up here, part 2 coming soon. But anyway, I hate them just because they slide around so much. Because there's no adhesive, there's nothing keeping it in place. So sometimes it'll slide up, sometimes it'll slide back, but it'll never stay in the same spot, at least for me. I could be using it wrong, I could just not have the right style for my body, but I've just kind of given up using them. Something else that I hate that maybe not a lot of other zero waste YouTubers hate is toothpaste tabs, as well as homemade toothpaste. I've had not so great experiences with both. I've only tried toothpaste tabs once or twice. I hate the texture, and either way, no matter what kind of eco toothpaste I get, I have to have it shipped to me. There's no eco options available here in Okinawa. So I just go for a option that I prefer, and that is David's toothpaste. Again, full review video up here if you want to check it out. But it's an actual paste, but it comes in an aluminum tube. So once you clean it out, it is 100% recyclable, unlike regular toothpaste tubes, which are made out of plastic and metal, so they can't be recycled. That got me into thinking, so okay, I hate dental tabs. What about making my own toothpaste? Ew. It's literally the worst. I think it might be something that I could get used to over time, but it's disgusting. As well as so with most homemade toothpaste, they are made out of baking soda, coconut oil, like that's the base. You can add mint essential oils, talk about those later, or charcoal powder to help with cleaning, which makes it absolutely a mess. And I've heard horror stories about people using this homemade toothpaste and then the coconut oil just clogs their drains, which can cause a whole slew of issues, including environmental issues. So I'm just gonna stick to professionally made toothpaste for now. Maybe one day I'll get onto the toothpaste tab trend, but for now it's not for me. Speaking of essential oils, that's the next item I hate. I don't know why this is associated with the zero waste movement, Maybe it's because you can use it in a lot of things like deodorant, your own fabric softener, your own dryer sheets, your own toothpaste, whatever. So it helps with all the zero waste DIYs, but essential oils couldn't be farther from zero waste. Again, looking at it like this, a little teeny bottle lasts so long. So it might look like a little physical waste, but it creates so much more invisible waste that we don't see behind the scenes. I forget the exact amount of pounds, but so many pounds of, say, roses only equals like 1 ounce of essential oil, of fragrance. So it is very, very environmentally detrimental because it requires so much resources. Of course, water, fertilizer, so many flowers and other sorts of plants, processing them, shipping them, and so forth. Plus, they're in these really hard to recycle and reuse glass bottles, so I'm not a fan. I have found all of the ones that I actually have secondhand, which is pretty cool. So people who didn't like those specific oils, I just took them off their hands for free, but I don't think I'd ever buy them brand new. Another zero waste item I don't necessarily hate, but I think is useless, is silicone bags. So I think they do have their purpose, their place in the zero waste world. Some people might use them more than others, but I have one silicone bag that I almost never use because it's so much more practical to me to use a container, to just keep my thing in the bowl that I mixed it in and then put a plate on top or something to keep it fresh. I rarely use the silicone bag, and that's just me. I know some people who own like 20 stasher bags because I love them so much, but for me, I prefer my containers. They're easier to stack in the fridge, they're easier to wash, and so forth. Along those lines, another zero waste item I think is a little bit of a hoax is bamboo cutlery. Yes, bamboo is a sustainable material. It's lightweight, makes it great for traveling, backpacking, whatever. But at the same time, like, do you really need to buy a new fork, spoon, and knife? Couldn't you just borrow one you already have from your kitchen? Or if you don't have any extra lying around your house, you could thrift a pair of silverware at the thrift store. Like, yeah, it's not as aesthetically pleasing, and I broke a lot of those aesthetic myths about zero waste in this video up here. Non-aesthetic things in my zero waste life. And that was one of the things I hopped onto in the very beginning, was the bamboo cutlery. And don't get me wrong, like, it looks cute for photo ops and stuff, but that's about it. They're not very practical either. We once had to use my bamboo knife back when we ate meat. It couldn't cut it, but you know, a regular butter knife could. The fork isn't very like stabby either, and the spoon isn't very deep. So I think they're all very impractical, and looking back, I would have ditched that swap and just used things I already had lying around. The next one is beeswax wraps. Again, I think there are so many other ways that you can preserve your food without using a new product. You can just use plastic takeout containers you already have. You can just put a plate on top of your bowl, like I already mentioned, as well as whenever I've used them, they don't work very well. I've never actually been able to get it to kind of seal around my stuff. It could just be the brand that I got. It might be user error. I did not like them at all, so I wanted to throw them in here. And then the last one is makeup remover pads, reusable ones. So I made my own probably like 2 years ago. I made them too small, which might be why I hate them. I made some new ones that are bigger, but I still think it's much more practical to just take an old t-shirt, leave it whole, or just cut it into bigger rags instead of like little teeny tiny rounds, and then just use it as a reusable makeup remover wipe instead of maybe a pad. I just think it's much more easy to use. Again, I think it's a very practical zero waste option. It helps you prevent from buying cotton balls and cotton rounds. Just use a t-shirt you already have instead of ordering something brand new. So now let's talk about a few zero waste misconceptions and things about the zero waste movement that I hate. Like I mentioned in the beginning, one of the biggest myths is that you have to keep a trash jar. Like, that's the only way you can be considered zero waste, is if you only make a mason jar full of trash every 5 years. It's not just about our physical waste, it's about our invisible waste too. These people might be going way out of their way to drive to bulk stores. They might be shipping things to them that don't come in packaging other than the box, when someone could just drive down the road and buy something in cardboard or glass or metal, something that's a lot more easy to recycle than plastic, and probably have less of an environmental impact than those people. But that's something to be mindful of if you are new to the zero waste movement, is don't be so caught up in your physical waste. Think about your overall environmental footprint. Very similar to that is that you have to eliminate all plastic. No, there are so many plastic things in our lives that are very helpful and not single use. The issue with the waste in the zero waste movement is single use items. For example, I have plastic Tupperware. I have old plastic peanut butter jars. My camera is made a lot out of plastic, and that's okay. I still use a lot of plastic in my life. As I outlined in this video, a lot of it is single use though, oops. But that's okay too. The point is that plastic is so helpful. Like, I think plastic was a great invention. I think the marketing and the single-useness is where we went wrong as a society. For example, things like EpiPens, inhalers, other medical items are made out of plastic. They are life-saving devices made out of plastic. And I don't think anyone should, demonize plastic as a whole. We should really be criticizing single-use plastic. Something else about the zero waste movement is that if you're zero waste, you have to be vegan. No. You can be vegan, you can be vegetarian, you can be plant-based, or you can just not have a label. A lot of people really get caught up in the label and then they become mean. You're zero waste, but you're not vegan. You're a bad zero waster. Like, no. While reducing your meat and animal consumption does have a positive impact on your invisible waste, I'm out of cards. I'll leave the video with that resource down below. It's not one and the same. You can still reduce your carbon footprint a lot without giving up meat and animal products. Granted, you shouldn't be over-consuming animal products and eating like a big steak every single day, but you can still eat an omnivorous diet and live zero waste by doing other things like using an electric car, biking, walking, not flying as much, reducing your physical waste, and other things like that. Similar to that is that if you're zero waste, you have to be minimalist. Not necessarily. I consider myself like a partial minimalist, as in like I don't really buy things brand new. I try not to impulse buy, but I own a lot of stuff, but I buy it all secondhand. So I think that's the really big key part is like, if you're still going out on shopping sprees every weekend, you're on Amazon every day ordering 10 things, but you're trying to be zero waste, those aren't really synonymous. But if you go out to the thrift store every weekend and you buy a new shirt every weekend and you don't have a capsule wardrobe, you can still be zero waste because that clothing that you just bought has zero environmental footprint other than driving to the thrift store and back. So while most zero wasters typically are minimalist or minimalist leaning, you don't have to be both. And again, if you want to avoid the labels altogether, go ahead and do that. Something I like to tell people too, instead of being like, oh, I'm a zero waster, is just I'm living a more sustainable life. I am trying to reduce my impact on the planet. I got way ahead of myself because the next tip I had written down is that you need to label yourself. I don't need to talk more about that. If you want to call yourself zero waste, do that. But if you don't like the label, then don't use it. Same with vegan, same with minimalism. Okay, this one frustrates me so much. And that is you have to buy a bunch of zero waste swaps in order to be zero waste. In fact, that could be more wasteful. I've talked about this in so many videos in my Free Ways to Live Low Waste series, my non-aesthetic series, my zero waste swap series video, not a series. And that is simply getting rid of the notion that you have to buy swaps to be zero waste. Like you have to have a clean canteen and a peel case and stasher bags, especially all like the big brands, to live zero waste. No. Zero waste can be something as simple as using up my entire bottle of plastic shampoo before buying a shampoo bar. Using all of my plastic Tupperware before buying metal and glass containers to store my food in. Because like I said, not all plastic is evil, and throwing away these brand new products or these products that aren't even close to the end of their life is so much worse for the planet than buying a brand new bento box that's made out of metal. So my advice here is to go into the swaps slowly. Use your plastic toothbrush until it's no longer good to use, and then buy a bamboo one. You don't have to, I'm zero waste, I need to buy all the swaps right now. Because I think leads into why people think zero waste is expensive. You can buy your swaps over time. I'm not saying to never buy any swaps because things like that are important, but you don't have to drop everything right now, get rid of all your plastic, and buy a bunch of stuff. That's wasteful and it is expensive. So instead, use your plastic containers until they're broken and then replace them with glass. Don't replace them with plastic because that's a little silly and kind of defeats the purpose. And that leads into my next point, which is zero waste is hard and expensive. While it certainly can be, if you choose to make it that way, it doesn't have to be. The whole premise of my channel is practical sustainability, making zero waste easy, free, and fun for everyone. It's not that hard to make sustainable action every single day. Something as simple as, for the past few months, it's been cool enough here that we don't have to use our AC or our heat, so we have kept our air off for literal months, and we just use the natural breeze. It's turning off the lights during the day and utilizing sunlight. Things like that are free, will save you money, and they're not difficult either. Yes, things that might be difficult are going vegan overnight or never flying again. And then it could be expensive if you decide to buy all the swaps right now. But if you pace yourself, you get your swaps over time, or you just upcycle things around your house to use as your swaps, zero waste does not have to be expensive and hard. So one last thing I want to touch on is using what you already have. I already hinted at this a bit, but it's things like using up your deodorant in plastic until it's all the way gone before getting a deodorant in cardboard. And even simple things like you don't have to go out and buy a bunch of mason jars to fit the zero waste aesthetic. You can just reuse jars from pickles and jam and olives and things like that. Think about your items before you send them to the landfill, before you even recycle them, because recycling isn't that great either. I'll leave some recycling videos linked down below. But using your valuable resources and using everything so you get the most bang for your buck instead of just sending it to landfill and then buying a new swap instead. And of course, I completely agree with supporting small businesses, especially small sustainable businesses. But if you're looking to save money and you reduce your waste, using what you already have is one of the freest and easiest things you can do. If you want more free tips on how to live zero waste, you can check out my full series, linked down below. I'm out of cards. I have 6 videos in that series now, each with 25 tips. So I'm up to 125 free ways to live low waste. I've got a video for easy water conservation and video for easy energy conservation, because like I said, I am striving to make my channel focused on free content, on free, easy, and fun ways to live low waste, because it can be easy and it can be fun and it can be relatively free. You know, I've bought swaps here and there, but for the most part, I just use what I already have around my house, and then I save money by not using electricity, not using as much water, and things like that. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I feel like most of you can agree with me that you're not really zero waste either. I'm certainly not zero waste, but I'm just here to reduce my impact on the planet, educate others to do the same, and I encourage you to educate others as well. That's one of the biggest things we can do that's free and pretty much easy. Pretty much easy? That's one of the best things that we can do that's free and relatively easy as well. It's something as simple as talking with your family at dinner, talking with your coworkers. If you want to get on social media and educate others too, especially if you want to share this video, that's great. I hope that you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Let me know what sort of zero waste myths you've heard of down below. Maybe I can make a part 2 to busting zero waste myths and other zero waste products I hate. So if you like this, let me know if I should make a part 2. And let me know what products you hate that are zero waste, because it really depends on each person. A lot of you watching might like toothpaste tabs, but you might hate silicone baking mats, which is my absolute favorite zero waste swap. So it just depends on the person. Don't take everything I say seriously. Take it with a grain of salt. Don't just not buy those products because I hate them, because a lot of people do find them useful. I just wanted to shed some light on the fact that not all zero waste swaps are perfect. Not all zero waste swaps are for every person. Do your research, go into each swap with an open mind. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time, especially if you made it all the way to the end. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe if you're new here. I would really appreciate it. And until next time, remember that these small changes you make have a big impact in the long run. Bye guys. So they can't be composted, obviously. Oh, you can totally see the iPad. Oops. Looking back, I would have ditched, I would have, sure. I don't really know how to wrap this up. What kind of time am I looking at? Let's just wrap it up.